Today we're going to talk about opinions and values when it comes to a story, and what I mean by that is obviously a lot of people, when they look at a certain fictional work, it doesn't have to be an anime or manga, it could be really anything, but they look at a series and they think this is not well written, thus it must be bad. And I want to oppose that. I want to say that just because something is quote unquote objectively badly written, it doesn't have to be a bad series, because one person is going to have a very different view of what a bad and good series is, and obviously different views on what they think good and bad writing is. I don't really think there is such a thing as objectively good writing. I really don't think that's something you could say exists simply because of the fact that everyone is going to have very different values, especially if you look at it from a certain angle, which is that different people value different genres. Like some people are going to like this genre, some other people are going to like that genre. Some people are a fan of cliches and tropes from certain demographics, like shonen tropes and stuff like that. Some are not. Some want it to be a bit more realistic in a sense, so maybe they're more prone to watch a seinen series rather than a shonen, for instance. But at the end of the day, they still like the same genre, so you know, there's a lot of factors that comes into play in my opinion when it comes to what is a good or a bad series. Me personally, I don't really think writing is the defining factor. I think it's just a part. I think much like any other thing when it comes to story, the quality of the writing is, at the end of the day, it's just one part of the story. It is not something that will ultimately define whether a series is good or bad. However, at the same time, I do value execution, but execution doesn't have to be because of writing. You know, something can be well executed but be badly written, something can be very badly executed despite having really good writing. Especially if it's like an anime or a movie, a TV show that is derived from a written work, because then it's going to be adapted from a written work, and they have to try to replicate it as well as possible. You know, it's not gonna go perfectly because it has to fit that format. You know, an anime format is not the same as a manga format, for instance. It's never gonna be a perfect copy. It just doesn't work. So that's just one example, of course, of what some people may value in a series, you know, the execution of something. This mostly comes into play with animes, movies, and stuff like that, of course. However, the elements that comes into a story also plays a really big role in my opinion. Like, you know, is there romance going on? Is it no romance at all? You know, what's the action like? Like, is it an action story, and how is the action being used? Like, is it being overused, or is it just where it needs to be? You know, stuff like that. Doesn't really have to do with writing at the end of the day. I think the writing, although it is important to some degree, something else will also be equally important according to some other guy. Me personally, I'm at the middle. Like, I don't really think writing should be excluded entirely, of course, but at the end of the day, I can still enjoy something that isn't as well written as something else. Let's give an example. You have a story like One Piece, and you have a story like Fairy Tail. People are gonna say One Piece is well written, thus it's better. Fairy Tail is atrociously written, and thus it has to be really bad and unenjoyable. And this is where I'm kind of in the middle, because I like both. I do. Like, I don't ever want to say that Fairy Tail is better written than One Piece, because I don't think it is. But I do still think that both have their strong points. I think Fairy Tail is enjoyable for its reason. I think One Piece is enjoyable for, you know, its reasons. There is multiple factors that comes into play in both of these. You know, Fairy Tail, I really liked just the whole magic aspect, you know, all of the themes that came into play. Whereas with One Piece, I do value the consistency of certain things, you know, whereas obviously Fairy Tail doesn't really seem to have a lot of these consistencies that maybe some other series will have. But I do enjoy the characters in Fairy Tail and so on, and I really like the art style. That's a really big factor for me. The art style is really important. Like, I shit you not, I will drop a series very early on if I notice the art style is not for me. Not even joking. In One Piece, however, the art style, although it's not my favorite, it's not really that bad, but then there are certain qualities of One Piece that are just significantly better. Like the world building. I think everyone can agree that the world building in One Piece is phenomenal. Like, it is probably one of the best that we've had, at least in manga. Possibly overall as well. I don't really know that well about fiction as a whole, of course, but I can imagine One Piece is up there, you know, because it's such a big series at this point. So seeing as I brought up Fairy Tail, let's talk about characters, because this is where a lot of people hate Fairy Tail. It's because of certain characters and how much bullshit and assholes are being brought into the series. I actually do understand this to a very huge extent, especially with Erza from Fairy Tail, because she has a very big tendency of actually just bringing out some kind of final attack out of nowhere, you know, because she believes in her friends and what else she has in store, you know, like when she was defeating Azuma during the Tenro Island arc, you know, she has defeated him because she believed in her guild. That is something I do not approve of at all, even though I like Fairy Tail. You know, every series has bad moments. Fairy Tail has a lot of bad moments actually. Despite that, I still consider it to be a fair series. It's not one of my favorite series. It's just, I like it, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a top-notch series. I could never say that it is, but I still enjoy it for what it is. Another character from Fairy Tail, obviously Natsu. He has the same kind of problem, like the Nakama power just comes into play too often in my opinion, especially when it's against a final villain. I think the final arc is a very good example of that, when he actually defeated the two main villains based on this power, essentially. Well, at least one of them, the other was a different kind of asshole, but at the end of the day was still an asshole, and I don't approve of it. Basically, the last arc was fucking shit. Like, there's no way anyone can defend that arc in their right mind. Another thing that I wanna bring up is obviously like My Hero Academia, because a lot of people recently, they've been starting to hating on My Hero Academia because it's so popular and overhyped and whatever, you know, whatever reason people have. I want to say I like My Hero Academia a lot, and the reason why I like it a lot is to a huge extent because it has to do with superheroes. And in the West, I live in the West, and I'm kind of brought up with the whole superhero shit. It's a very big reason as to why I like My Hero Academia. It's such a familiar theme to it, you know, the whole superhero aspect. But then Horikoshi, in my opinion, he did something that I at least haven't seen in a different series before, where he kind of brought this whole kind of generic shonen stuff, but he mixed it with a very strong school premise, which created a perfect balance between slice of life and battle shonen. And these are just, you know, few of a lot of examples that I could give as to why I like certain series, whereas some other people will say that this is absolutely shit. They will hate on it without end. And I don't know about you guys, you may have completely different opinions as to why you like certain series. These are obviously just my reasons and reasons that I've been seeing other people have. You know, we're all different at the end of the day. Anyway, that's really all I had to say about this topic. Like, I just wanted to give my thoughts on why I think people shouldn't be so stuck up on good and bad writing, and instead you should just enjoy whatever you enjoy. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments, and as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember everyone, Toga is waifu, Toga is life.